Okay, students, uh, today we will discuss the further proposition of social contract theory as given by Rousseau. Rousseau was a French philosopher, and he also gave a social contract theory. His objective, in fact, was to find a logical explanation of the worth and nature of the state, and he built up a good case for popular sovereignty. But the manner in which he did it, it was both paradoxical and ambiguous, because he influenced the French revolutionaries in adopting liberty, equality, and fraternity as their motto on one hand, and on the other, legal influenced by his idea built up a theory of omnipotent state, where the state is something which is supreme. So in this theory, he followed both Hobbes and Locke, because his starting point was Locke and the finish was with the Hobbes. Now Rousseau's conception of human nature, that he felt that originally man was totally carefree and innocent. He didn't have the sense of that this is mine and this is thine. It was a blissful living, and the people enjoyed liberty and the real liberty. But he felt that later on selfishness took birth because of private property, and man got engaged in various type of wars. He depicted the state of nature as something originally man lived in the state of nature, which was both pre-social and pre-political, means there was no society as such and there was no government as such. It was his individual living. He felt that in the state of nature, the man was neither quarrelsome nor selfish. It was totally a carefree man. He led his life in a very simple manner and in a very idyllic happiness, because no one interfered with the life and of others, and everyone enjoyed perfect freedom in this state of nature. But this type of a state was a very short-lived stage, because there was an increase in population, and there was also dawn of reasoning, growing economic needs, emergence of family, and this institution of property. All this created a lot of confusion in the life of an individual. There were perpetual wars between them, and because of the property dispute, the life became very bad in the state of nature. It became a life of inequalities and loss of freedom. So they wanted to go back to the they wanted to go back to the nature as such, and because he observed that man is born free, but everyone is in chains, and everywhere he is in chains. He therefore decided to get rid of this wretched life which was prevailing in the state of nature, and decided to establish a civil society through a social contract, and this is how he advocated that the social contract came into existence. Now, as a result of the conditions which have been explained now, there emerged a general will. General will in the sense that people formed a civil society and replaced those natural freedoms they were enjoying with civil freedoms which they have created for themselves. And this was done through a social contract which was both social and political. The features of this contract are that each man surrendered oneself to the collective real will of all, that is the general will, the real will of all for the good of all. So they surrendered their authority or their privileges to one sovereign. From it emerged a supreme or a sovereign will, means the person who controlled the people, who was acting for securing the social good of all. In obeying general will, one obeyed his own real will, which was part of the general will. And his starting point was that if disobeyed, it was done under influence of selfish will, when people became selfish. Selfishness is what is the actual will of the individual. Thus emerged a popular sovereign representing the real will of all and working for the good of all. It allowed him to exercise unlimited, absolute, inalienable, infallible, and individual freedom. And that's how the civil society came into existence. Okay, now evaluation of Rousseau's theory. The social contract theory of Rousseau was vague, and it was also confusing and had several paradoxes. Uh, it gave different and conflicting propositions, such as distinction between the real will and the general will was abstract, which we could not see, and unreal, and it divided the human being into two parts. That the general will was the will of all, not in numerical sense. Means if there are 100 people, it is not that 100 or any number of that represented it, but it was the will for the good of all. Thus it was confusing and had dangerous manifestation. It also legitimized the use of force by the state. This way he wanted that the individual should be liberated from the bondage of the actual will, that is their own will. How can one use force, and use of force by the state is accepted as a way of protecting the freedom? It is a speculative, abstract and unhistorical. He failed to draw any distinction between the state, society and the government, which is very important. His definition of sovereignty was a popular sovereignty, means which the people have authorized. Thus it made it absolute sovereignty, like Hobbes, which built the theory of all-powerful, omnipotent state. Now, critical evaluation of the social contract theory as a whole. Firstly, it is unhistorical because there is no proof of any contract having been entered into by the people, which is supported by the history. State of nature, it's virtually a fiction because there is no proof of existence of a pre-social and pre-political state of nature. And okay, if we accept it even, it becomes impossible to ascertain it. Then a state is not a made-man machine. State is a natural human institution, and it came into existence through a natural process of social evolution. Not that the man sat at one place and created it. It is not acceptable. And no contract can really be possible without the state of law. Till the time there is no law, there is no such thing as a very binding force, and there is a valid contract, there cannot be any state. Such things have to be sanctioned by the state and its laws. The contract binds the parties and not their successors. Even if for the sake of argument we accept that the contract has been entered into by the people, but the dictates of law says that the contract binds on only the parties which have entered into it, and it ends when the parties dies. So even if the contract was signed, it has got finished with the parties. So we cannot say that because of that state is existing. State is even existing today, even those parties are not there. So, under reality of natural rights and laws, Hobbes, Locke and Rousseau accepted the presence of natural rights when there was anarchy in the state of nature. It was an all imaginary and unreal. There can be no rights without a civil society. Rights can exist only when there is a civil society. The member of the state is not voluntary. This theory it suggests that the membership of the state is voluntary and it is based on contract. No, it cannot be. A person becomes a citizen of a state by birth and he has to obey the dictates of the state. There is no choice with him. And it is a dangerous theory. This theory was used by Hobbes to advocate absolute sovereignty. Hobbes wanted to support the British king, and Locke wanted to support the rights of the people to revolt against the people, the king. And Rousseau built it in favor of the popular sovereignty. Means this sovereignty resides with the people. Like we say, democracy is for the people, by the people, and of the people. This theory is a dangerous theory because it can be subjected to different and opposed interpretation by the interested parties. And if this is accepted, that means there is something wrong in the interpretation given by the propagandist of this theory. So with this, students, we come to an end of the social contract theory. And then the next we will discuss about the evolutionary theory of the state.